In 20 games last year, Joe Burrow was sacked 70 times and took 133 hits. Some Bengals fans probably know those numbers by heart. And it was no secret around the NFL that the Super Bowl runner-up had a ton of cap space and was looking to make numerous upgrades on the O-line. So like every fan base dreams of in free agency, the Bengals go out and turn their team's biggest weakness into a strength. Now these upgrades are much easier to make when some of your stars, especially at premium positions, are still on rookie contracts. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, even T. Higgins are all going to be getting big deals when their second contracts come around. And it's nice to see Bengals management and ownership going after players and getting deals done. I know Bengals fans aren't used to being a destination, but that's what happens when you find a quarterback like Burrow and make noise in the playoffs. So in this video, we're going to evaluate the 3 big pieces added to the O-line. Then we're going to analyze the team as a whole and talk about what the expectations should be for this season. Starting off with Ted Karras, who has experience at both guard and center. It is expected that he'll be playing center in Cincinnati. For the first 3 years of his career, he was a backup interior O-lineman that would start just 1 or 2 games a year. In 2019, he was thrust into the mix after Patriots starting center David Andrews was declared out for the year. That season, Bill Belichick called Karras one of their most consistent players. And more importantly, he was praised by Dante Scarnecchia, who is possibly the greatest offensive line coach in the history of the NFL. That also means that Karras was taught by Scarnecchia in those crucial developmental years, which should pay dividends for the rest of his career. In 2020, he went down to Miami and started every game. Then last year, he returned to New England and started 13 games. That year was probably the best of his career. And now when it comes to protecting Burrow, Karras has especially excelled when in pass protection. All in all, he's probably not going to be making any Pro Bowls, but he's a solid, consistent player. When it comes to Alex Kappa, he's shown the ability to improve every year he's been in the league. It's sometimes harder to evaluate Brady O-linemen because he gets the ball out quickly with smart decision making, but the good news is that Burrow can do that as well. Kappa is certainly disciplined, much more so than teammate Ryan Jensen, who the Bengals were once rumored to have interest in, but Kappa does share Jensen's incredible toughness. The Athletic's Greg Auman recently pointed to the 2019 Saints-Bucks game where Kappa fractured his arm, but didn't miss a single snap. And now we get to the big one, La'el Collins, who is now reunited with his old Cowboys position coach Frank Pollock, which means he should have a much easier time adjusting to his new team. Not only has he become one of the best right tackles in the league, but he's also still just 28. Maybe nothing says more about how much the Bengals needed Collins than Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon going out of their way to recruit him. Speaking of which, I know there will rightfully be a lot of praise on how these moves help Burrow, but the Bengals running game should improve quite a bit as well. I'm especially thinking about those short yardage situations where now maybe they feel a little more comfortable running the ball. Mixon should see a boom in efficiency now that he finally has a proper O-line in front of him. Anyway, Collins locks up yet another position on the O-line and leaves only one position at left guard up to competition, with Jonah Williams slotting back in at left tackle. So looking back, part of what had me thinking they should have opted for Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater in the 2020 draft was literally Andrew Luck. I still think if the Colts had put more resources into protecting him and making it priority number 1 quicker, then he still could be playing. It's extra sad when they finally put together a good O-line right when he retired. For a while, it looked like the Bengals might have been falling into the exact same pattern. But now we know they have taken the right path toward extending Burrow's career. They got the pieces needed, and now those pieces need to go and back up the contracts they were handed, which honestly looked like pretty good deals, especially Lyle Collins. I was kind of shocked he signed for that money, so yeah, I have to think he took a bit of a discount to play with the Bengals, which sounds really weird to say, but you have to think his market must have been higher than what they ended up getting him for. Maybe when he said his priority was winning championships, we should believe him. Burrow seems to have that effect on people. Collins had some cupcakes at Burrow's house, and the next thing you know, the Bengals got him on a team-friendly contract. There was either something in those cupcakes or Burrow put another player under his spell. A spell that led the Bengals to the Super Bowl last year. It's seriously amazing to see the 180 culture change in Cincinnati. Of course, you'd have to think Zach Taylor is responsible as well. But this Joe Burrow effect makes me think it's going to be easier for the Bengals re-signing their own guys in the future, especially Jamar Chase. I don't think there's going to be any Tyreek Hill situation there or a Devontae Adams one with him already happily playing with his college buddy already. Luckily for Cincinnati, they've also gained a lot more than they've lost this offseason. Even with CJ Uzomah being their biggest loss, they ended up replacing him with Hayden Hurst, who they can expect to get similar production from. Still, they haven't really worked on the defense at all. Getting a quality corner should be next up on the list and would likely come in round 1 of the draft. Although I have seen rumored interest in grabbing a veteran like Stephon Gilmore or Joe Hayden. I know it depends on what money Gilmore is asking for, but I think he's got enough left in the tank to make a serious difference on a contender. Probably not gonna happen with the Bengals, but I would be a fan of that signing. I mean, talk about bringing in a former Defensive Player of the Year who's also won a Super Bowl. Could be exactly what this team needs. After that, just building depth in some key areas would be ideal. This is really starting to turn into a nicely balanced roster. Now, on the one hand, you could say the Bengals were an offensive line away from winning the Super Bowl last year, but teams like this also normally see some regression after unexpectedly going deep in the playoffs. The thing to keep in mind is just how hard it is to get back to the Super Bowl. We've seen the big moves teams around the AFC have made. I don't think we're going to be getting anything like a 2021 Raiders caliber team in the AFC playoffs next year. Even if the Bengals win the division, which you'd certainly think they'd be the favorite, every playoff round is going to be a brutal challenge. Now, I will say, with the improvements they've made, they could arguably be the best offense in the league. The Packers and Chiefs lost their number 1 receiver, so they could be taking a small step back. The Bucks, Bills, and Rams would be up there as well, but the Bengals offense is about as complete a unit as you'll find across the league. Even if they don't make it back to the Super Bowl next year, they've still accomplished something that has possibly saved the franchise and could lead to a future championship. And that's protecting the franchise quarterback. It can never be understated just how important that is.